So you can hear, even though when you type in words, it doesn't always sound exact. So we're going to go through the rest of the interface in detail to give you an idea of how we can then change these and help you build much more realistic choir sounds. So we're going to go into the voice section then, the voice section over here on the top left hand side. You can see here you've got voice properties where you can import and export voice files, adjust the phoneme balance, and also the text modes that we spoke about just before. You can switch between English, phonetic and Votox mode. In the text editor, you can type the phrases that you want your choir to sing, and you've also got here an example of a glossary of recognized letters in phonetic and Votox modes. I've included some of these in a nice reference file for you. Make sure you check those out. Really, really useful to be able to copy and paste, save you hours of typing. And in the tools section on here, you've got undo and redo. So if I didn't like the words I had just said, I could just undo those until it goes back to the previous version, a new beginning. And then you can redo as well. Then you've got reset position. That then resets the playback position to the start. So for example, if you were doing a new beginning and I was stopping halfway through, do you hear how it wasn't quite at the beginning? Well, what you do here is just go reset position and then and that gives you a really nice ability to reset the playback to the beginning with one click. Next, underneath then, you've got options. Clicking on options gives you adjusting settings for general use, timers, and events. So general use will show you here. Here's the sound library and the vowels we're going to be using. Can either be in English or Latin. Timer mode gives you the amount of time between the change of chords. So for example, if you wanted a much snappier change, we'll go into more detail about that later. And then events. So for example, you've got here return to the beginning, and then you've got different controls that you can then select to then effect different changes MIDI wise, and then bank select as well. You can change these, those will affect a different change. Closing that down, and if you go into phrases, you can see here you've got all sorts of phrases both in Spanish and English, Latin, German, Italian, and then below this you've got backup singers, which is grayed out, and you cannot use this one because we are not using the backup singers library, but when you do, those will become available and then you can see those particular phrases as well. So if you were writing in Spanish or Latin, you've got so many you can choose from and then tweak from there. So if I was to choose maybe a different English phrase, Genesis into your enemy, you'll notice when I add this, it will then add it on to the text that's already there. So if you do not want this, then you'll have to delete what's already there. But I'm just going to add this in, and you can see here then it does replace that because I had highlighted the text already. If I didn't want that, I would just click undo and it would go back to a new beginning, redo, would add that back in. So let's have a listen to how this sounds. Genesis into your enemy. So you've got here quite a variety of different phrases you can play around with, and they'll sound really, really nice. So word display then. Word display displays a selected syllable in all three modes. So for example, if I was to say, I didn't like the way it said to, then I could see what that would look like in all of the different word modes. And then option to solo the selected syllable. So for example, you can then select solo, just to solo that particular syllable and just play that over and over. So you could be tweaking that syllable as you go and then have it repeat for you as you play it. The syllable section then has two aspects to it. You've got the speed states, you've got normal, learned, edited and adjusted, and also the learn function, adjusting timing based on playback, which is cool. So you can have different modes here. You can change the speed, sync draw only, and then you can apply to the current voice, and then you can start or cancel. We'll go into more details about that in a different video. And then in the letter section, you've got here, you can modify velocity and select transitions between normal, legato, staccato, and slurred. So if you were to select one of these, you can go and select those options here. The velocity you can change. You can increase it, decrease it, keep it the same. You can then select and tweak for normal attack, legato, staccato, and slurred, and we're going to go on to more of that in another video. You could also go into the time editor, which is below here, the time editor. And here in the time editor, you can fine tune the duration and overlap of phonetic segments. So for example, if you wanted to change maybe this here, which is the t and the o, what you can do with the t is you can maybe reduce the strength of that and also reduce maybe the length of the o. So again, we go back to solo this. And you can change and keep playing this on your keyboard. So you can see how nuanced that can be. I'm just going to undo all of those steps, and you can see it takes you back to where you were originally.